Frank Brown, a coal miner who resided in Fairmont for most of his life, lived with his brother Jason and Jason's wife in a part of town known locally as Rat Row. Frank worked at the old Gaston mine with Tony Miller, who also lived in Fairmont at the time. One day in 1914 began a series of events which are remembered and talked about to this day. Frank, a normal, healthy man who was known and liked by everyone in the community, on this day changed suddenly and completely. It seemed as if he had become a different person. He stopped talking. He quit his job. He was unable to lift any significant weight, although he was known to be a man of great strength. He began to wear a tie, although he had never worn one previously. His actions became so strange that people began to notice them more and more. Many reasons for his new behavior were advanced by the people of Rat Row, but none could satisfactorily explain it. Rose Cooper, a local resident, claimed he was possessed by the spirit of a dead person. With this idea in mind, she armed herself with a Bible and went to Frank's home to have a talk with him. When she arrived, only Frank and John's wife were there. Upon seeing Mrs. Cooper enter the door, Frank spoke up. "You finally came," he said. Mrs. Cooper looked at him and asked, "How many spirits have returned with you?" Frank refused to answer. Mrs. Cooper plied him with more questions, but still he remained silent. Finally, she demanded, "In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, talk!" At these words, Frank at last broke his silence. When Mrs. Cooper asked him what he wanted, he replied, "I want my former landlady, Mrs. Thelma Parsons, to send money to a certain priest in Italy and have him say Mass for me with the tabernacle open." This was an unusual request, since the tabernacle remains closed during most of a Mass in the Catholic Church. "Who are you?" asked Mrs. Cooper, a chill creeping up her spine. "I am Sam Vinci," he replied slowly. At this, both women shivered with fright, for they knew who Sam Vinci was. He was a man who had been dead for 2 years, choked to death in a freak accident at the old Gaston mine. Mrs. Cooper finally became calm enough to inquire of Frank, or was it Sam? "Why did you come back in Frank's body? We know that you are a decent man and cannot understand why you would do this to him." The spirit answered by saying he wanted Mass for himself, and went on to thank Mrs. Cooper for treating him so kindly while he was alive. Mrs. Cooper talked the spirit into letting her take care of the Mass. She then asked it to leave Frank's body, but to do so in such a way that no one would be frightened. The spirit agreed, and after causing Frank to rub his hands over his face, it appeared to leave Frank's body, for after that Frank seemed to return to normal. But later that night, after Mrs. Cooper had gone home, Frank walked into her home and, without a word, proceeded to sweep the house. Had the spirit returned? Mrs. Cooper wrote to the priest in Italy who said Mass for Sam Vinci. Once more Frank returned to normal. The spirit had gone. For the rest of his life, Frank never remembered what happened during those 3 months the spirit possessed him.